Good morning to everybody. Happy Tuesday. It's Daryl here. It's 3:30 a.m. in Connecticut here on the East Coast. Today I want to talk about the Iowa caucuses. I looked over a bunch of different networks, different interviews yesterday of the people of Iowa, and I was really happy with what I saw. It brought me hope. Um, and I finally started to understand at least the Trump supporters in that area. I got an idea. I understand basically what they were talking about. One Trump supporter interviewed said they wanted to turn the government upside down, even if it was ugly or it wasn't pretty or it was he used some other adjectives similar to that, and that I can understand that. I guess the real question now is, how did that experiment go? And will you vote for him again? That's my question. I think there's some people that refuse to give up on that idea and believe that Trump has done a good idea. I'm sorry, a good job. Um, but the people of Iowa, from what I saw, a lot of them weren't voting for Trump again. Especially a lot of ex-military people they interviewed. There was older; these people were probably in their 60s or 70s. There was about three or four older people. I think it was like three gentlemen and a woman. And they said how they voted for Trump, and they were bothered. In particular, these people were bothered when he talked about when he had all the fallouts with the generals and the people that were supposed to help him. Um, I remember bringing this up before he got elected with my people around here, people around close to me, that I was concerned that he didn't have any military experience. And the people around here, the Trump supporters, the Trump voters around here, were telling me, well, he's going to have people in his staff around him, generals and whatnot, that are going to give him advice. And what we've seen is that's not true. His ego is we've seen I don't need to get into that. He believes he knows the best and he takes advice from no one. I mean, that sums it up. Anybody that has a condescend con condescending opinion. I forgot the word now, but you know what I'm saying. Anybody that has a different opinion, he's basically gotten rid of. And he doesn't seem to take any advice from anybody. And this bothered the older gentleman in this interview, who says he's ex-military. He said we're all ex-military here, and he said we don't know better than the generals, and and we know Trump doesn't know better than the generals. So they're not. They said they're voting Democrat now. Um, so it was interesting. It was interesting watching the interviews of the people of Iowa. One of the best things I saw was the Republicans and the Democrats in Iowa getting along. And the caucuses. I forgot how the caucuses worked. It's not ballots. They meet in groups. There's a group that meets for Bernie Sanders at a particular spot. And the way they phrased it is they don't vote with a ballot, they vote with their feet. In other words, they walk to a meeting place and they count the people there. And then if there's not enough to meet a certain percentage, they go to a second their backup choice. It's really cool. I enjoy it. To me, it's real democracy at work. Meeting together, like I said, and voting by groups like that, just basic people. I love it. I love it. And there was one lady that she's a Republican. She's smiling through the whole interview, and she's talking about how she owns this restaurant. She's a Republican, and she said, she volunteered her place for the Democratic caucuses to meet. And I was like, that's freaking beautiful. That's what it's all. This is what it's all about. It brings back some hope. I just got goosebumps, man. Uh, it's a good thing. But I started to understand. Like I said, this one guy they interviewed talked about turning the government upside down. They want to turn the government upside down, even if it's ugly. And I can understand that. Like I said, the question is, where to now? They talked too about like a pendulum swinging back and forth. And I've seen this before, how it seems to go for about 8 years Republican, then it swings back to 8 years of like Democrat, more or less. But what we've seen in the last, say, about 20 years is, especially after 9/11. I don't know if it had anything to do, that might have had something to do with it too. We seem to get more divided. and it's more farther right and farther left, the extremes. Like, I'm not saying Obama was very liberal, but it was 30 years ago, I would have never guessed there'd be an African American president, and a lot of people didn't either. So it was a liberal choice. Uh, and then now Trump, extremely, extremely conservative choice. And it seems like that pendulum is swinging further and further back. So I guess the big question is now, 2020, are the majority of people that voted for Trump going to realize or think that it was they've tried this experiment out of turning the government upside down, and they've seen the results? Are they going to go along for more of it or not? Uh, it was interesting. Like I said, the Trump supporters around here that I talked to seem to ignore all the negative aspects of Trump, and there's a lot of them. And they just kept pounding on the economy. And like I made this other video, that the economy turned around in 2010, 2009. It turned around, and it crashed in 2008, and it started improving in 2009, and it's been improving steadily ever since. And this nonsense that Obama messed everything, made a mess of everything, and Trump's turned it all around is complete. It's a complete falsehood. It is. It's a complete falsehood. What Trump has done, honestly, is he's rolled back regulations. Some okay, some not bad, some very bad, some just ridiculous, like school lunches, or some of the hunting ones, hunting hibernating animals, Resolution 69. Um, his stuff with asbestos, with global warming, that's just insanity. Um, so I mean, he's had some hits, he's had some misses. In general, I see him as a failed experiment. The problem is he doesn't take anybody else's advice, and I think his ego has ruined what might have been an all right idea of trying something else in government. But I think his ego just didn't allow for him to be a good leader. That's my opinion of Donald Trump. So the question now is, are people going to be stubborn and say, yeah, he's doing a good job, and ignore the real problems we've had with him, the very, very real problems we've had with him? It seems to be hit or miss with him. He gets an idea in his head that could be catastrophic, or it could be good, or it could turn out all right. Like, say, with Soleimani. I mean, a lot of times, I think he just got lucky with that whole deal. Because it could have, sure as hell could have turned out much worse, and it still might. I think he's reckless with his ego, I think, and this country's too big to be reckless with, I think. And the tariffs is another example, I think, of just I'm always right, and I'm just going to push ahead no matter what. He's a man who doesn't admit his mistakes, and to me, that's a huge problem. I always admit my mistakes, and I think anybody that wants to continue to learn, any fairly intelligent man is going to admit their mistakes if they make a mistake. And Donald Trump does not admit mistakes, and that could be a big problem in the future, because then you have somebody that's going to push ahead regardless. If the signs point to a negative result, he's just going to go for broke on this, and it could be catastrophic. So that's the question. Is there going to be more people that are going to ignore all this bad stuff that he's done and push ahead with this experiment, as I call it? Or are there going to be enough people that just say, okay, we tried this, and let's try something else now, or try something a little more sane? All right, you guys have a good Tuesday.